Hey guys, my name is Sam and this video is in regards to my favorite architectural period from the past, which is the Gothic period. So let's take a look. The Gothic period can be best understood if you divide it into sections. The two most common sections are called the Early Gothic period and the second is called the High Gothic period. Some people would even add an additional period called the International period. This is because the Gothic movement grew into Italy and all over the western side of Europe. The Gothic period has rippled through time, so much that we can still see it today, not just in France where it all began, but through Europe and even here in America. My wife and I usually go for walks at the Branchbrook Park in Newark, New Jersey, when the cherry blossom trees are blooming, and off in the distance you can see a beautiful cathedral that erupts through the scenery. The Cathedral Basilica of Sacred Heart here in New Jersey is designed with the same Gothic features as those during the European Renaissance. However, this cathedral was finished only 70 years ago. The Gothic period has had its influence in architecture when it comes to religious buildings, especially buildings concerning the Catholic Church. It seems to be the equivalent of how Washington, D.C. and most government buildings adopted the classical Greek architecture. The Catholic Church adopted and embraced the Gothic architecture deep into its DNA. So what makes a building Gothic? And most importantly, why did Batman like hanging out around Gothic gargoyles? There are a few elements that make a building Gothic. Let's analyze them in what I consider their level of admiration. The first is the ornate decorations of the facade of the cathedrals. The entrance is the first impression of the building, and it seems to be decorated from head to toe. Not an inch seems to be left unadorned. The magic of the decoration begins when you realize that it's so much more than just decoration. The building, through its use of statues, scenery, symbols, the mass of the building and the height of the building communicate back with you. It engages all those who gaze upon it. The decorated facade seems to tell the narrative of the divine, and it pleads with all those who enter into it. The second thing you will notice is the large stained windows that surround the building. In particular, the stained glass of the massive rose window. You have to remember that during these times, people mainly dressed in brown earth tones. Color was really reserved for just royalty and the things of the utmost importance. While today, we see most cathedrals in a monotone exterior. When they were built, the statues and the scenery were skillfully painted. The glass color stained windows used light as an integral part of its function. The other thing you will notice are the pointed windows alongside all other features that just seem to direct our eyes upward towards the heavens. While your eyes look up, these pointed windows serve another key and very important role. They support the massive weight that it bears. Pointed arches are much stronger than its predecessor, the Roman arch. It distributes the load downward rather than just outward. Speaking about the weight, we also have to consider the height of the Gothic cathedrals. These buildings were massive for their time, and while it relied on the modern architecture techniques of its time, it was complemented by another feature of the Gothic period, the flying buttresses. This architecture design was unique for its time. It did not just make the building more beautiful as it functioned as more decoration, but it also added the needed support system that would prevent the structure from falling. It helped in distributing the weight. Once inside, you will see another one of my favorite and important features of the Gothic architecture, the rib vault. They're called rib because they look similar to our human ribs. Once you are inside and you look at the massive hollow space above you, you can really see and acknowledge how these buildings were well beyond their time. The red vaults or groin vaults were proven engineering methods that stand the test of time today. All in all, the Gothic period gave way to many beautiful cathedrals and buildings throughout the world. It was the improvement of the Romanesque period. It was and it still is one of the most transcendent forms of architecture, and that is why it's one of my favorites. And as to why Batman like hanging out around Gothic buildings, well, I truly don't know. I guess I will need to ask my history of architecture professor. Thank you guys for listening. Have a great day.